officer for this case and provide the recommendations to the City Planning Commission. A little background on this project. It originally started off as a 500-unit mixed-use project. It was therefore reduced to 399 units. And an EIR was prepared for the project and was released in 2010, year 2010. The final environmental impact report was circulated this year. The project was originally proposed to provide 399 units reduced from 500 with a floor area ratio of 2.75, a height of 100 feet, and those included specific plan exceptions for those requests. Planning staff decided that in order to reduce the project's impacts, reduce the overall height and scale of the project, we made recommendations to reduce the floor area to 2.25, reduce the residential density from 399 units to 325 units, and to also limit the height to 82 feet, which would be consistent with the mixed-use provisions of the Ventura-specific plan. In the end, we felt that this overall reduction would help reduce traffic impacts, would help improve the aesthetic character of the site, while still retaining the amenities that were proposed as part of the project, which included a 13,000 square foot public plaza, park-like amenities with recreational opportunities for residents. The project also incorporates transportation demand management programs, which offers discount bus tickets. It has other provisions for residents to take alternative transportation opportunities. Also includes bike sharing as well as car sharing programs. The environmental impact report evaluated all aspects of the project's impacts. There are unmitigated impacts of traffic, noise, and air quality. Most of the unmitigated impacts are during the construction phase, so they're temporary in nature. However, there are intersections within the area that will not be mitigated beyond a significant level. However, mitigation measures are incorporated and memorialized as part of the queue conditions of the project, and those mitigation measures are considered to be at the 500 larger scale residential components. So none of the mitigation measures are being reduced or omitted as a result of the reductions. So in conclusion, the appeals are general appeals of the overall decision. The appeals question whether or not the project is consistent with the general plan. The appeals also include challenges to whether or not we can make findings. Planning staff has reviewed all the appeal points and disagree with the appeal, and we recommend, based on the project's compliance with the intent and purpose of the specific plan, that you deny the appeals and sustain the actions, the determination of the City Planning Commission. That concludes my summary of the case. If you have any questions, I'll be available.
Thank you. Just to reiterate your final point, which is you reviewed the appeals, the three separate appeals?
There are three separate appeals. Two of the appeals are virtually the same. They have the exact identical points. There may be some differences between the two, but in general, all three appeals cover the same points, and they challenge the findings, they challenge whether or not the project is consistent with the plan. We find that the project is consistent with the plan.
Thank you. So we will now go to the appellants and provide the appellants. We have 1, 2, 3 appellants. We have a number of speakers. Let's go first to the appellants. Marshall Long, and then Elliot Cohen, and Brad Hogan. Yeah, since these are the appellants, let's provide each appellant 3 minutes to speak. And we'll be flexible with that since they are appellants. 3 minutes, yes.
Okay.
We're a little flexible since you're the appellant, so you have more or less 3. We want to take a little more time.
Yeah, it was 20 minutes at the CPC, so
We have a number of speakers on this item. We're going to try to fit everyone in.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
My name is Marshall Long. I'm the Land Use Planning Chair for Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association, and I'm speaking on their behalf. Homeowners organizations such as SOHA have developed over the years in response to excessive developments in their neighborhoods. We as an organization work on improving our neighborhoods, not by opposing all developments, but by working towards appropriately sized developments in compliance with existing land use and planning laws that are on the books. SOHA and other similar organizations welcome members from residents living in the area. Unlike neighborhood councils, we are not supported by the funding from the city. We are funded by 2,300 dues-paying families and hold monthly meetings where we host prominent speakers to discuss the issues of the day. We've been pleased to have council candidates and council members talk at our meetings, including some here today. I'll skip just to speed through stuff. Many of our members have worked with others in having similar interests to develop specific plans, including the Ventura Boulevard specific plan adopted as a law by the city. This sets limits on the density, height, and types of developments along and adjacent to Ventura Boulevard corridor. A number of other communities have developed similar specific plans in their own neighborhoods, and these our plans are written to provide clear guidelines both for the public and the developer as to what the level of developments are appropriate in a given area. As a board member for SOHA and chair of its land use committee, I'm familiar with the IBT project proposed for a site adjacent to Sepulveda Boulevard, north of Ventura Boulevard. The lot in question has been owned by the developer for 34 years and is now vacant because the developer has chosen to clear it. It's clearly a challenging site for a developer. The nearest proposed residential tower is located 35 feet from the 405 freeway, near its junction with the 101. As such, noise levels impacting the structures are close to CNEL 80, 50% louder than the noise level at the end of the west end of the LAX runways. These levels exceed the allowable noise standards adopted by the City of Los Angeles in the noise element general plan for multifamily residences and the state standards on which they are based. And I can provide an exhibit. The existing traffic in the area is totally gridlocked. The junction of Ventura Boulevard and Sepulveda in Sherman Oaks is one of the worst intersections in the city. It has taken me more than 45 minutes to drive through it in the morning. The original IBT project proposed to add over 2 million annual traffic trips to Sepulveda Boulevard near the intersection with Ventura. The reduced project will add about 80% of that number. The EIR and nearby intersections in the area have negative traffic impacts that cannot be mitigated.
You could wrap it up, please.
Okay. Recent researchers at UCLA and USC have published a study on ambient air pollution and autism in Los Angeles County. This relates the incidence of autism to nearness to freeways, and has shown in study areas, including Sherman Oaks, a 12 to 15% increase in the incidence of autism. The AQMD has issued guidance for locating residential projects, and that was used in the Caston West, I believe, to move their project from 350 feet to 500 feet away from a freeway. This is 35 feet away from the freeway.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We have a question.
I have left written copies of that.
Did you include it in, well, in your letter that you submitted, it indicated there was a 135-page petition as well, but I didn't see the package.
Okay, that was probably Mr. Torgan's package. I left the package with the secretary at the beginning of the meeting, and I also emailed it to the planning deputies in your office. Thank you.
Elliot Cohen, after Elliot, Brad Torgan.
Hello, thank you for hearing me. My name is Elliot Cohen. I'm representing homeowners of Encino, which is a California 501c4 corporation whose members live and work in Encino and Terminos and will be severely impacted by the traffic, parking, congestion, noise, and air quality from this massive 325 apartment project and mega retail development. Homeowners of Encino insist that the project meet all the requirements for the Ventura Cahuenga Boulevard Corridor specific plan, all current zoning and codes. This was the implicit contract with the community when M. David Hall bought the property. They should also be required to mitigate all the negative traffic impacts they are creating. There is widespread opposition to the project, contrary to what the developer and their cheerleaders will tell you. We have 150 pages of signed petitions opposing the development. I think it would be instructive, since so much of what the developer wants to do is in violation of the Ventura Cahuenga Boulevard specific plan, and we should take a moment to consider the intent of this plan renewed and reaffirmed 12 years ago, almost to the day by the City Council. And let's consider whether the developer has met their obligations under the Ventura Cahuenga plan. And I personally wonder, having to be here to plead to you to follow the existing audience, if we had lost all institutional memory in the city. Does the past City Council decree by ordinance not make any difference? Or does it make a difference that an army of a platoon of lawyers and consultants is in tow here for M. David Hall? So what does the Ventura Cahuenga Corridor Plan suggest? And this was written on August 18, 2001. The Ventura Cahuenga Boulevard Corridor is still experiencing serious traffic, transportation, and density problems, which in a number of locations are classified as unacceptable. And after the slow pace of development during the recent recession, new developments in the corridor once again are developing beyond the capacity of the transportation infrastructure. And may I submit that the Ventura Boulevard and Sepulveda Boulevard intersections figured high in the council's mind. Whereas the amendments, expansion of pedestrian-oriented areas, and designation of the regionally impacted areas and restricted use areas address the increasing traffic in general by increasing development, by encouraging pedestrian activity, and downsizing the amount of car trips. The developer's own consultant said there are 5,800 car trips a day. This does not diminish car trips on the Ventura-Sepulveda corridor. Whereas, and I quote again from the document, historical approaches to building and financing transportation capital improvements no longer appear sufficient to meet the needs of the corridor. As a result, new approaches, including restriction on future developments, must be devised to ensure that Ventura Boulevard remains viable as San Fernando Valley's premier commercial corridor. And I would go on to say that the developer is building in the most polluted spot in the San Fernando Valley, ignoring AQMD guidelines, LA City Planning Commission guidelines, and all this. And I submit to you that over time, the adverse health effects that this building, so close to the freeways, will create will someday cause giant class action lawsuits for the developer and the City Council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there, sir, we have a question for you, sir? Sir?
I just for the record, I'm just trying to put my records straight here. So you're with the homeowners casino?
Correct.
But you're not Jerry Silver.
I'm not Jerry Silver.
You don't look like Jerry Silver.
Thank you.
Is he not here on behalf of, because it was written as Jerry Silver.
Jerry Silver couldn't attend. I was asked to come down
On his behalf?
on his behalf.
Not an organization, as an individual? I'm just trying to.
Yeah, I'm from homeowners of Encino, his organization.
Okay, because he filed as an individual, not as an organization. That's fine, I just want to make a note.
Okay.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you. Brad Torgan?
Thank you. I'm Brad Torgan on behalf of the Sugarcoast Residents for City Environment. Recently, your council passed the Casden West project. And what you did there is instructive for this project as well, because they've got a very fundamental similarity. Now, the staff has gone out of their way, the applicant's gone out of their way to try and distinguish it, but really that fundamental similarity remains. Someone sought entitlements to build a lot of apartments within 500 feet of the freeway. In Casden West, it was within 300 feet. Here it's 35 feet. In Casden West, you said that was bad public policy and that was bad public health. You should say the same here. Now, what does that mean for this project? I've acknowledged in previous correspondence that we understand that there's always residential zoning on property, and that most of the property is within 500 feet of not one but two freeways. So I'm not going to stand here and say don't build any multifamily at all. But if the original Casden West proposal was bad for public health and public policy, what it means here is you should be granting exceptions, variances to the specific plan in order to increase density that close to the freeway. And the density should be limited to what's in the specific plan of an FAR 1.5. There are a couple of deficiencies in the EIR I'd like to mention. One is the cumulative impacts analysis, and in particular, the related projects list generated in 2008. We've identified at least two substantial projects in the EIRs that were in the works at the time, that included Toscano on their respective projects list, but that don't appear on Toscano's related project lists. Two of them are University specific plan and Fashion Square expansion. And I believe those EIRs have been certified, so the city's on record as indeed those are related projects. And they're not insubstantial projects. Universal City alone is about 1.5 million square feet of office space, 500 hotel rooms, and over 2,000 multifamily units. At the very least, projects that include Toscano on their related projects list need to be included on Toscano's. The left hand needs to know what the right hand is doing. That hasn't occurred here. The applicant has cast the dialogue we've been having over transportation impacts as a matter of experts. And actually, it's much more a matter of common sense, and I'd like to give two details. We noted a design flaw in the project that creates a traffic hazard. When commercial trucks headed to the loading dock and make a right turn off of Camarillo on the firing of the project, they have to swing into oncoming traffic. That's a safety impact not discussed or analyzed. The response we got was that the project will arrange for supermarket deliveries off-peak to the extent that's possible, and they'll have personnel out there directing traffic whenever there's a delivery. Two comments here. There's no enforcement mechanism for that. But second, while they do have a traffic consultant there as an expert, I doubt that extends to grocery store logistics. We're being told that in order to take care of this problem, there's going to be a flat guy standing holding up traffic from the project when supermarket trucks are coming in. I don't think that passes the common sense test, and I think you owe it to yourself as decision makers to find out if that's feasible before you approve the project. The last example is another traffic safety issue. There's an alley off the south side of Camarillo that leads to another apartment complex garage as well as a motel. In the evening rush hour, that alley is going to be blocked by cars trying to get out going eastbound in Camarillo. So anybody trying to make a left turn into that alley isn't going to be able to do so, and that's going to cue cars back up into the intersection of Camarillo and Sepulveda, creating a significant safety hazard. The responses we got were pavement markers saying don't block, and the other response was people won't make unsafe left turns because that's against the vehicle code. And really, again, I go to common sense. I think we've all seen that those pavement markers are honored in breach rather than observance, except thankfully in fire stations. And I bet there's not one person in here who has either seen or been that person who's tried to be the last one through a red light, only to get caught in the intersection because cars are stopped on the other side of the intersection. I've heard the buzzer, so my time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from the applicant,
Good afternoon, Chair Weezer, Councilmember Cedillo Newlander. I'm David Goldberg of Arnold Rister Goldsmith and Delavac, counsel to the applicant M. David Paul Associates. And just initial, could we request 10 minutes just so we could collectively respond to all three appeals?
Well, we've allocated 3 minutes per person. I mean, I'll be flexible with that, just as I was with the others.
Thanks. Thank you, Chair Weezer. And I will go through this a lot quicker. What you have before you is a mixed-use project of 325 units, a TOD project that's right for the site. It's about 52,000 square feet of ground floor community serving retail, and it will provide a 13,000 square foot plaza. The project has evolved over a number of years in response to community input, and we are very proud that we have the endorsement of the Neighborhood Council, unanimous approval and recommendations of the City Planning Commission, and even a group of homeowners, United Neighbors 818, who live across the street from the project, who once opposed, now support this project. We've also had support from transit advocacy groups, FAST and the Transit Coalition, as well as from business groups in the area. This project will revitalize the area. We've addressed community concerns. The zoning is outdated. It's inconsistent with the regional center land use designation for the site, and so a rezoning is appropriate, and the City Planning Commission has confirmed that. This is a site is a great location for infill development, but it does have constraints, as has been acknowledged by the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association, Mr. Marshall Long. There's a 26-foot high sound wall that lines the site, and so that creates constraints, and it's generated the need to develop the residential on top of a podium, which has created the need for some additional height. With that said, we've worked hard to address community concerns. We've reduced the project by 175 units. We're now at 325. The height has come down to 82 feet. It's only 2 feet higher now than what the Sherman Oaks homeowners said they found acceptable. You hear a lot of concern about the FAR. That's only one metric. A project, a big box retail on this site at the 1.5 to 1 FAR allowed by the specific plan would actually double the traffic. So you shouldn't just look at FAR, you should look at the use on the site, and a mixed-use transit-oriented development is really a less impactful traffic generator. We have intersections that we're mitigating, 7 of them. There will still be impacts that remain, we've acknowledged that. DOT, to address that's also imposed a mitigation fund for the project. And we have a very aggressive transportation demand management program for this site. We heard the planning department staff address that. And we're also looking to fund a transportation management organization for the area. With that, we would request your approval. My partner, R.J. Comer, will address the issues raised in the appeal. We also understand that the council office will be requesting the inclusion of some additional conditions of approval that arose from the community input process. We support the inclusion of those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. R.J. Comer? And I'm sorry, before you begin, we are closing the speaker card submission on this. We usually stop it when the time begins. I was being flexible with it, but we keep getting them, so there are no more cards that are accepted for number 4 and 5. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Weezer and honorable council members. My name is R.J. Comer on behalf of the applicant. There have been countless reams of paper on this project, and the city planning staff and the city planning commission have been very exacting in making sure that we responded to every single issue that you heard today from our opponents, and the administrative record is filled with data responding to those issues. And I'm going to touch on just a few of them in the 3 minutes that I have. First is air quality. I was in this room when the City Planning Commission passed its air quality guidance on residential development near freeways. And I spoke to the City Planning Commission about that guidance. The City Planning Commission approved this project. The reason they approved this project is because this project has one of the most aggressive air quality mitigation measures that this city has ever seen. This project has one of the most detailed health risk assessment studies that this city has ever seen. And every single study that has been mentioned to this city has been responded to by our air quality expert and shown that this project complies with the air quality management district guidelines, complies with the CARB guidelines, and complies with the US EPA guidelines. A specific plan exception. Specific plans expressly allow exceptions. They allow exceptions when sites are unique. This site is unique. It's on the fringe of the specific plan area in the first place. One of our opponents admitted that it's a challenging site, and the specific plan exceptions before you today that the planning staff and the City Planning Commission have vetted very thoroughly have determined that because this site is so unique and because some kind of development is necessary, those specific plan exceptions are also necessary. You heard that this project costs 2 million daily trips. That's just wrong. 325 units costs us 4,600 daily trips. Now that is a lot of trips. And no one is going to stand before you today and say that traffic isn't difficult in this area. It is. But this project mitigates almost all of its potentially significant traffic impacts. This project creates a new traffic fund that has never existed before in this area of the San Fernando Valley. And this project includes a TDM plan that is one of the most aggressive and innovative in this city's history. Will it mitigate every traffic impact? No, it will not. But will it set a standard for how do you develop residential and mixed use in an area that's already impacted by traffic? That it does. It does set that standard. And when you talk about new approaches under the specific plan, our transportation demand management plan is one of those new approaches. You also heard that the specific plan limits density. It doesn't limit density. Density is how many units per acre or how many units per gross lot area. The specific plan does not limit density. It limits floor area ratio. And the floor area ratio on this project has been reduced since it was first applied for. And wisely, through the planning staff, through the City Planning Commission, it has been a reduced project. Every issue before you, including, and I just want to touch on the Kasdan project, which was mentioned before. Your city planning staff has made specific findings about the Kasdan project. They included a table of the findings showing why this project is different than the Kasdan project. And the one thing I want to share with you is that the Kasdan project said that no residential unit can be within 500 feet of a freeway. If that same condition were imposed on this project, it would be a moratorium on residential development. There's no way we can do that. But this project, unlike the Kasdan project, has the most aggressive and detailed health risk assessment and air quality mitigation measures this city has ever seen. I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions. We have all of our technical experts here to answer any questions you may have. Oh, and I'm sorry, I wanted to thank staff for the amount of work they did on this, because it was immense.
Thank you very much. And now we'll go into other public commenters. We have over 25 cards. We will provide each person a minute to make their provide their comments. We'll begin with the support. The first is Louis Krokover, and then Kevin Tamaki. We're doing 1 minute.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you. I want to first thank Planning Department staff and Councilmember LaBonge and his staff for their due diligence in working with this, as well as with the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council for their effort over 17 months to come to a resolution on this project. I'm speaking solely on behalf as a resident of Sherman Oaks, California, and I look to you guys to basically research as best you can, determine an aspect of possibility for this project. In its reduction state, the project is viable and beneficial long-term for the community of Sherman Oaks and the city of Los Angeles. And I hope that you will consider that as a viable point in your decision. Thank you.
Kevin Tamaki, Kevin Tamaki is Doug Arsenault.
Good afternoon, Council members. My name is Kevin Tamaki. I'm with AT&T National Affairs. AT&T has been in this area for 100 years, ever since Dalton came to the San Fernando Valley. And we have an employee location just 2 blocks away from the proposed site, where we have over 65 employees. And we see here a great opportunity for our employees to be able to shop, to work, to live near a development that has many amenities and would be a very appropriate mixed use. So bringing these opportunities, both residential and retail, is not only smart, but it's economically beneficial to Sherman Oaks and the Valley. And I am picturing just 80 employees being able to walk a couple blocks to work, to shop, and to enjoy the amenities there. It's great to have this opportunity because I think, downtown should have all the fun, the valley should as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Doug Osternow, Julie Edelstein.
Good afternoon. My name is Doug Arson of the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, representing more than 380 businesses throughout the San Bernardino Valley. VICA strongly supports the revised Villaggio Toscano project, which underwent a remarkable decade-long process, including working with the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council for more than 2 years to ensure the best possible final project proposal. A committed, long-time member of the Valley business community, M. David Paul has made several reductions of units, reduced building height, eliminated 2 specific plan, accepted requests, incorporated extensive list of design features, and volunteered 20 other conditions requested by the Neighborhood Council. All this hard work and incorporation feedback is a testament to the project's commitment to designing a gathering place that serves the needs of residents, customers, neighbors, and other businesses. The Villaggio Toscano is a model project fulfilling our region's air quality and TOD goals, outlined in AB 32 by then Assemblymember Pavley and the Sustainable Communities Act, SB 375 by Senate President Pro Tem Steinberg. We encourage this committee to move this project forward as soon as possible. Every day that this development is delayed equates to lost commerce for Valley business owners and lost tax revenue for community investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie Edelstein and Julia Stan Gerson.
My name is Julie Edelstein, and I grew up in the Sherman Oaks area with families still living there. I support this project and feel it will be an enhancement to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Stan Gerson, Ron Zip.
Hello, my name is Stan Gerson. I happen to live in the area, I work in the area, and I'm in the Chamber of Commerce in the area. Now, this particular area that we're just talking about, you can look at this picture. This was Sherman Oaks. That's the intersection 100 years ago. It doesn't look like that anymore. And I guarantee you, over the years, people who lived there like this wanted it to be the same way. It isn't. We can't even think in today's viewpoint. We have to look in the future. And the developers have looked in the future, planned for the future. And I will tell you, I think it's really a great project for Sherman Oaks. And I hope that you will agree with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ron Zip and Robert Provine.
I'm Ron Ziff, Chair of the Land Use Committee, Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council. We worked on this project for 21 months, heard 14 hours of testimony from 200 speakers. What was once, we reshaped the project with our community. What was once an 8-story building is now 4 stories, stepped back to 6. Our conditions have been accepted by the opponents of the project, by the council office, by the zoning administrator, and by the applicant. We urge you to pass this and approve it. I'd like to say one other thing about the perception of our hard work. A Los Angeles newspaper has mischaracterized the neighborhood council as NIMBYs that oppose housing projects. Nothing could be further from the truth. That newspaper could have found out the truth had they attended just one of our meetings or made a phone call. They didn't do any of those things. This project does meet our standards. We have reshaped other projects consistently for the past 11 years, and we ask that you pass this one despite what the newspaper tells you about us.
Thank you. Robert and Bruce Ridley.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Robert Rodine. I'm both a resident of Sherman Oaks and have my business there. I think what has been said about traffic really is preposterous. About 10 years ago, I was speaking with Hassan Karta of SCAG when he was just the transportation director there, and he made the observation that the traffic problems that we experience at Sepulveda Boulevard and Ventura Boulevard begin in the Camarillo Plain. And to suggest that a local building project is going to significantly exacerbate traffic coming from Camarillo and Simi Valley and all those areas to the north is just preposterous. The other thing I'd like to mention is that this project brings aesthetics to our community that we have not seen in the 40 years that I've lived there. And I really applaud that, and I think it's a wonderful contribution. there are countless authorizations. This project went through the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council Land Committee for years before it got here, and it made a lot of concessions, and there were a lot of adjustments made to gain the council's approval. It also did the same thing at the Planning Commission, and I think that they've shown extremely good faith and strongly encourage you to approve the project. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much, Bruce and Jason Sweeney.
Hello, my name is Bruce Ridley, speaking on behalf of the project. I'm the president of Sherman Oaks Presbyterian Church, within walking distance of this project. I have participated in the neighborhood council meetings and the other sessions in which this project has been discussed. I think the thing that impresses me most about this project is that it responds to what I think is the general perception of what is the way our community should grow. If our community is going to grow, we need to provide for our citizens the type of amenities which they need. For example, Sherman Oaks Galleria does that. The LA Fitness Health Spa to its north does that. We're developing a concentration of services that people need, all of which are within walking distance. And of course, our Sherman Oaks Presbyterian Church is within walking distance. We like people to walk over. That would be very nice if they would do that. The point is that if we provide for folks what it is that they need within a walking distance or a short transportation distance, then we've achieved really a worthwhile planning goal, which is to concentrate the needs of people with people.
Thank you. Jason Sweeney, Adriana Fernandez.
I thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm looking forward to this project. I live about 2 blocks away from it. I'm a homeowner, about 2 blocks away from the project. The investment that they're making, I've seen that it's about $150 million. To have that kind of investment made in the neighborhood where I live, I'm really in favor of that. My family, we walk to the Galleria a lot. It would be really great to have a really nice spot, another place to go to in the valley that's within walking distance. One thing that nobody has brought up as part of the project is to improve the median that runs along Sepulveda Boulevard on the other side of the Galleria. So, with the new plaza and that median, I mean, it's going to completely change. I mean, Sepulveda will be a completely different place. We need that. There's a lot of Sherman Oaks that is still old and kind of decrepit, and it would be really nice to see this part of our neighborhood get reinvigorated.
Adriana Fernandez, Jeffrey Hartzell.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Adriana Fernandez, and I live and work in Sherman Oaks, and I strongly support the Villaggio Toscano project. This development is desperately needed in Sherman Oaks. When I was searching for a home, I was disappointed by the lack of quality apartments. While Sherman Oaks may appear to be oversaturated with apartments, many have not been renovated in years. As a longtime renter, I've watched the discussion of this project over the past few years, and I was impressed that the neighborhood council was able to bring stakeholders together to find a compromise that ensured the best project for Sherman Oaks. Recently, I've heard from new groups that are trying to drown out the voice of groups that engaged in this process. As a Sherman Oaks resident, I am very disappointed that these groups are being regarded as above residents that engaged in the process, particularly renters. I recognize that homeowners are perceived as more permanent residents and therefore are given a more prominent voice, but my generation is proud to be renters and deserve to be given a proper voice in the Sherman Oaks community. The neighborhood council process did just that, and their work deserves recognition as the voice of the greater community. I look forward to the Villaggio Toscano being built and hope that the council will move forward with development. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey and Garrett.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Hartzell. I'm a 30-year resident and homeowner in Sherman Oaks. I'm also a member of the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association and an active volunteer at the Sherman Oaks Park, which serves through the YSO function there some 2,000 families. I want to speak in support of this project for 2 reasons. One, because I firmly believe in a mixed-use, high-density movement along Ventura Boulevard. With time, that will help, I hope, generate a truly useful public transport system. And secondly, as mentioned or at least alluded to earlier, I think that the use of quickly funds for recreational improvement of Sherman Oaks and other parks would be very useful.
Thank you. And Garrett, Eric Salveson.
Shorter. Hi, I'm Ann Garrett. I have been a resident in Encino for over 10 years. I'm ingrained in the valley. And I, along with many of my friends and neighbors who've written me letters, unfortunately I couldn't be here today due to work constraints. I wanted to let you know that in Encino, we strongly support this project and urge you to pass it. We are very interested in having a really nice option for retail. A specialty grocery store would be wonderful. I drive by this area often, and I would just like to say that I strongly support it. The outdoor space is going to be beautiful and something that we can use. And really, more than anything, this is a tasteful, beautiful place that the developers put a lot into. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric Salveson. Sue Steinberg.
My name is Eric Salveson. I've lived and worked in the area for over 30 years and fully support the City of LA's approval of this project. It will bring immense benefits to the Sherman Oaks area and all the residents in the area. Thank you.
Sue Steinberg, George Levy.
I'm here today representing United Neighbors 818. We're the homeowners group most immediately impacted because we're the closest, we're right to the east of the proposed project. United Neighbors was initially formed to oppose this very project. However, after many meetings and several years of getting together with the applicant, we have decided that the project should scale back as it is with the conditions that we volunteered for, that we are now supportive of the project and urge you to go ahead and pass it. We'd like to thank the applicant for working with us. Like I said, it took a lot of time and effort, and also compliment Member Lon's office. He's done a great job with us. We really appreciate it. But again, we'd like to support it with the conditions that they've already agreed. Thank you.
Thank you. George Levy.
My name is George Levy. I support the
George, can you do me a favor? Bring the microphone down, please.
I support the development project and the funds to be used to fix the fields. I myself had been playing on the fields and got hurt by slipping on a concrete rock. I have also seen my friends dislocate located ankles by tripping on rocks. I'd like the fields to be repaired. Thank you.
Thank you. Summertime, otherwise I'd ask for school time or not. I think it's starting today, right? So I'm not sure if you'll here. Lisa Petrus, now we're going to the opposed. Lisa Petrus and Ann Walnut.
Thank you for your time. I personally went door to door in my neighborhood and had petitions signed, spent a weekend at a grocery store having petitions signed. And without exception, every single person is against this project at the size that it is. It is just way too big for the neighborhood. We are all pro-development. My neighbors basically given up coming down here because the project has been pushed through and rubber stamped all the way through planning, through Mr. Labange's office. We've been told that if the councilman approves it, then you guys are going to approve it, and that you can't fight City Hall. I'm here to prove otherwise. And I hope that you take into consideration the group that was just up 818. That's a handful of neighbors. I was working with the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association and the Encino Homeowners Association, and I can tell you by going door to door and speaking to my neighbors, they do not want this project the size that it is. It is too big. And people keep mentioning the traffic. Oh, well, there'll be traffic. I live in that neighborhood. We cannot take any more traffic through there, especially 1.8 million cars. Thank you.
Thank you. And Walnut, you're in regard to this item, right? Yeah, I'm sorry, yes, you were number 6. Steve Acria and Barry Johnson.
Good afternoon, Council Member Stephen Africa. I'm here representing the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. I'm a 20-year resident of Sherman Oaks. I'm glad they're going to be approving the median strip because I'll have plenty of time to look at it while I'm sitting in traffic trying to traverse down this public boulevard through Ventura Boulevard, which is one of the busiest intersections in the entire city. We're talking about 5,800 traffic trips. They say 4,600. Granted, there's probably confusion about that, and that's because the Planning Commission approved a reduced project that was not one of the project alternatives. This project hasn't been studied, the traffic hasn't been updated, and we believe that it's very flawed in terms of your ability to approve it today. We would respectfully request that this committee hold this item, direct the planning staff to further study traffic and other impacts based on a project that has not been studied by Planning Commission or through the CEQA process, allow the public to comment on those impacts, and let's bring this back where we can all be better informed as to how this project will affect this community. Thank you very much, council members.
Thank you. Eric Johnson.
Barry Johnson, Studio City resident. Unfortunately, my community of Studio City isn't in a bubble, and the effects of what goes on in Sherman Oaks, unfortunately, don't stay in Sherman Oaks. I support these appeals. I do not support exceptions to the specific plan, which the communities along Ventura Boulevard fought so fiercely for many years ago. I'm proud to say that Studio City's Neighborhood Council has not approved any exceptions to that plan in its 11-year existence. And I just wanted to bring up the culture of build big developers. It's always ask for everything you can. We started at 500, then 300, 399, and 325. But it's always started at a big number, and then they look like the good guys because they came down to 325. But in reality, it probably should have started at 325 and come down from there.
Thank you. And we have a general comment in the Senate, David Ranko. Then we'll hear from the Council District Representative, Jonathan Brand.
Good afternoon, David Ranko. I live close by, and really, truly, we know something has to be built on that land, there's no question. The question is simply how large and what. I find myself often leaving Sherman Oaks, going north and into Mr. Englander's district to do my shopping and dining. Sherman Oaks is too jam-packed. Traffic is a nightmare, and our buildings are getting larger and larger. We simply ask that the project comply with the specific plan or be reduced even further. Looking at the project, there is no true public giveback in terms of low-income housing, affordable housing for seniors. It's a for-profit project, so the community doesn't feel that it should sustain any potential future burden from it if nothing's being given back to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Brand.
Chairman Weezer, council members, my name is Jonathan Brand with Tom Launch's office. This has been a proposal that has been in the process for years and has been subject to full environmental review. Sherman Oaks has several long-standing and well-regarded community groups: Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association, Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council, Chamber of Commerce, and United Neighbors 818, a group of residents adjacent to the site who have been working with the next-door Galleria, Sherman Oaks Galleria, for years. Now, we take all of their input seriously and have heard from all of these groups. They have all worked on this project for years and have all offered different recommendations on how to move forward. That said, we feel that city planning and CPC's recommendation of a further reduced project in both density and height incorporates a fair mix and balance of the feedback this project has received from these groups. That, combined with required mitigations, conditions, and continued neighborhood consultation, gives us a proposal that the council office can support. Please see the amending motion that ensures continued community consultation, post-approval for neighborhood protection during construction and beyond. And lastly, we'd like to thank Nick Hendricks and the planning department who has worked so diligently on this project and has really incorporated all of these things that I mentioned before. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And there's been some additions to queue conditions submitted by the council office. And for the record, should we read these in the record?
I think that would be a wise idea, at least to summarize the major points of these changes. Maybe you could call staff up to do that.
Staff on the project?
Or the council office.
Yeah, we review these, the city attorney's office reviewed these, and these, sometimes when we get this, there's, may or may not be nexus with the actual project.
Yes, I worked with the staff on these. So that's
Good afternoon, committee members. This is Nick Hendricks, City Planning. We've looked at the addition